What's up, guys? Brian Grossman here with Grossman Woodworking and DIY. And on today's video, we're going to be taking a look at another new tool here in the shop, but this one is a little bit different than your normal woodworking tools. It's certainly, I guess, a woodworking tool, but we're going to be looking at the Proyama 68cc chainsaw. And the reason I'm unboxing and reviewing a chainsaw here on my woodworking channel is because we're going to be putting this thing to use in really two ways. First off, I got a lot of trees around the outside of the shop here that I got to clear up. Some right against the shop and some just on the lot. I got to clear the path out that used to be the driveway to this shop that has grown up. So I got a lot of outside clearing to do. But what I'm most excited about with this new chainsaw is we're going to be hooking this thing up to a Vevor Alaskan chainsaw mill and trying to mill some logs off the property here. And that's something I've wanted to do since I started this woodworking venture. I really want a full-size log mill because I have a lot of great oaks and hickories and maples and other trees here on the property. And I would love to cut some boards out of those trees and have those for future projects. But I just can't swing that at this point. I just have a lot of other things more important than a sawmill right now, like getting a roof on this thing so I quit getting water in here every time it rains. But this was an affordable option, and since they offered to send me the chainsaw, I reached out to Vevor about the Alaskan chainsaw mill. They sent that to me, so we're going to put it together. That's going to be a future video where we put the two together. For this one, I just want to look at the chainsaw. We're going to unbox it, see what's included, get it together, put some fuel in this thing, crank it up, and we will put it to the test out here on some trees around the property and see how it performs. But in a future video, a very near future video, we'll cut down a tree here on the property. I haven't decided which one yet, whether it's going to be a maple, an oak, or what. And we'll hook it to that Alaskan chainsaw mill and put that thing to the test together, put them to the test together. But for now, let's crack this thing open and take a look at it. I always feel like a kid at Christmas time when I'm unboxing any of these tools. And yeah, imagine that, a box inside of a box. All right, well, let's get this one out of the way. And hopefully there won't be another box inside of this box. All right, let me swing this around so you can kind of see what we're looking at here, as I do. I got the blade guard there, case. Looks like we got a visor here, maybe I don't know if it's a full helmet or just a visor, but got the pieces to put all that together. So some safety equipment. It does come with two bars. It comes with a 20-inch and 24-inch bar. The 68cc model does. We'll set those off to the side. Well, that's nice. It comes with a little mixing container here to mix the fuel for it. And we'll definitely need to do that. Some hearing protection. And then the saw. Oh, some gloves. A couple of chains for the 20-inch and the 24-inch bar. Some tools to put this thing together. And then the chainsaw itself. All right, so with that, I'm going to get all this stuff out of the packaging. We'll get it assembled, and we'll see how this thing performs. We start the assembly with the bumper spikes or the dogs, whatever you want to call it, the small black metal plate, which is held on by the two provided screws. Proyama also throws in a wrench that can be used on any of the chainsaw parts as well, so it helps in this assembly process. With that attached, then there is a small gasket that goes between the bar and the main chainsaw body that just keeps bar oil from leaking all over the side of the chainsaw. Make sure that you install it so that the oil grooves on the body of the saw line up with those on the gasket. Next up, we put the 24-inch bar on. sliding it over the two mounting bolts and then back behind and up against the sprocket so it's as short as possible. Then we slip on the chain for the 24-inch bar, making sure that the chain's teeth on the top of the bar are pointed forward. You got to make sure those are oriented in the right direction. But then we just slip those drive links of the chain into that groove on the bar, starting at the top back near the sprocket, and then just continuing all the way around the bar till you get the chain in. And then just pull that bar forward enough to keep the chain taut and right up against the sprocket. With that, you can then install the clutch cover of the chainsaw, making sure the little chain tension adjuster on that cover is in line with the hole on the chainsaw bar where it goes. You'll probably need to use the chainsaw tool that come with it, or any flat blade screwdriver, to adjust that tension adjuster to the right location. Once that adjuster drops down in the hole on the chainsaw bar where it belongs, then you can go ahead and install the two nuts that hold that clutch cover down and snug them up finger tight, and then you can tighten them down the rest of the way with the provided chainsaw tool. Make sure you adjust the tension adjuster before you tighten those down to get the proper amount of tension in the chain. You don't want it loose. It shouldn't hang down any, but you should be able to pull it away from the bar just a little bit. And then it should move freely when you have it installed and the chain brake is off. You should be able to move that freely. And I probably should have been wearing gloves for this part because that chainsaw chain is sharp. And with that, the Proyama chainsaw is fully assembled. Now it's time to mix some fuel to see if we can get this thing cranked up. The Proyama uses a 40-to-1 fuel mixture. So find that 40-to-1 mark on the small tube portion of the provided mixing jug. But then you add your 2-cycle oil up to that mark. You can then tilt the jug with the caps on tightly to move that oil over into the main chamber of the container. Then add just enough gas, and I would recommend using ethanol-free gas so you don't gum up the carburetor on that thing, to bring the mix up to the top mark on the mixing jug, the full mark. And try not to spill it everywhere like I'm doing here. Then once full, you can put the caps on, give it a good shake to mix it up. Then you're ready to fill up the chainsaw. Hey, don't forget to fill up the bar oil reservoir too, which is what I did first here. And as always, I got it a little too full, so when I put the cap on, it ran over and made a mess. But once you have your bar oil full, then you can fill up the fuel tank. And this would have been much easier with a small funnel because, once again, I'm making a mess here. But with the bar oil full and the fuel full, let's get this thing cranked up. Start by making sure the chain brake is on by pushing it to the forward position. Then prime the fuel bulb by pushing it in 5 or 6 times until it's filled with fuel. Pull out the blue choke knob and then flip the run switch to the left of the handle up to the on position. Now let's see if this thing starts. After 2 pulls, it tried to start, so I pushed the choke knob back in and pulled it 3 more times until it finally fired right up. Then when you're ready, just push the run switch down to the off position to shut the saw off. Well, all right, we're going to put this thing to the test, and I will say the first thing you should do with the safety equipment that came with the saw is throw that stuff in the trash and get some real safety equipment, because it ain't much. If it's all you got, then absolutely use it, but get you a good helmet with a face shield, some ear protection, and definitely get you a good pair of chaps if you're going to be operating a chainsaw. So I'm going to get my stuff on, and we're going to start with just a small little pine here, just to see how this thing does, and we'll go from there. I got my shop's right here behind me, and this whole side and left hand side going down toward my shop needs to be cleaned up. A lot of trees about this size cut down. But the real test is going to be when we put this thing in that Alaskan chainsaw mill. And well, before we put it in the mill, we'll cut us a good sized tree down, a hickory, an oak, something, and then put it in the mill and see if we can cut that thing into millable boards. And I'm excited. I'm excited to do that. That'll probably be a separate video, but for now, let's cut a few trees down to see how this thing does. Now, it may be painfully obvious here, but I am not a trained chainsaw operator, so don't base your chainsaw technique off anything you see me doing. And if you are a skilled chainsaw operator, constructive criticism is welcome, but hey, just don't be a jerk about it. Again, I don't claim to be a chainsaw expert. I'm just testing one out here. As you can see, the saw didn't have any issues cutting up a small pine, and we'll put it to the test on something a little bigger here in just a minute. Now with the pine cut up, let's move on to a larger maple tree on the property. And my apologies for the poor camera placement on this one. As you can see, it's having a little harder time with the big maple than it did with that pine, but it's still cutting it. A few days later, I came back to the maple, but this time with the 20-inch bar and chain installed to see how it did, because honestly, the saw felt a bit underpowered with the big 24-inch bar on there. Again, I just wanted to cut off a few cross sections of the log to get a feel for how this 20-inch bar handled the maple. And it definitely handled it better than the 24-inch bar did. All right, guys, we have put the Proyama 68cc chainsaw through its paces, and I just kind of wanted to wrap things up with some final thoughts, pros and cons, and just some circumstances where this might be a chainsaw that would work for you. Now, first off, if you're expecting, if you buy this expecting a Husqvarna or Stihl quality chainsaw, you're probably going to be disappointed. It's not that, and it's not meant to be. This is a budget chainsaw. You're going to pay probably half the price of what you would pay for one of those higher end saws of comparable size. So it's a deep discount, but you do sacrifice some quality. There is definitely a cheaper feel on some of the plastic and mechanisms. The trigger mechanism has a little bit of a cheaper feel to it. Some of the plastic, the guard, that kind of thing. Not over the top, just a little bit cheaper feel than what you would expect, again, on a higher end chainsaw. Now, performance wise, this thing started great, ran great, didn't have any issues as far as that goes, other than it was a little bit underpowered using the 24-inch bar on that. I think that's just a little too much bar for this chainsaw. Maybe if you're cutting up pine or softwood, it's not as much of an issue. But when I tried to cut those maple logs, the 24-inch bar struggled some. When I switched out to the 20-inch bar, there was a noticeable difference. It was much better, really no issues. Still occasionally, would slow down cutting through one of those maple logs. But overall, it did pretty good with the 20-inch bar on there. I was impressed for the price, and I will continue to put this thing through its paces. But I guess bottom line is, if you're on a budget and you just need a chainsaw on occasion, maybe to cut up a tree that's fallen on your property or clear up a small area on your property, then the Proyama will probably fit that bill and work great for you. If you're not on a budget, if money's not an issue and you use your chainsaw on a regular basis, I mean, pretty frequently, then hey, spend the extra money. Go ahead and get you a Stihl or a Husqvarna or one of the higher end saws, and you definitely won't be disappointed with that. So that's kind of my final thoughts. Again, I'm going to continue to put this thing through its paces here on my property, and we are going to, here within the next week or two, hook this thing up to an Alaskan chainsaw mill. I'll swap the chain out with a ripper chain made for that, and we're going to see how this thing does. That's really going to put it to the test using it in that mill. So we'll see how it does there. I will be making another video for that separately, and I'll continue to keep you updated on how it does, because again, I'll use this thing till it just wears out, and I'll be able to tell you how it's going to hold up long term, because that's always the question when I do these reviews is, it does great, the couple weeks that I'm using it, but I can't tell you how long it's going to last for you. And I guess another question is, I don't know about parts availability for these. So if you were to have an issue, that's another question as well. But if you'd like to check out the Proyama or learn more about it, I'll put a link to that in the description below. I don't know yet if they're going to give me a discount code if you're interested in buying one, but if they do, that'll be in the description below as well. But guys, as always, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and little notification bell. Help us get this channel to 10,000 subscribers and beyond. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.